Hello everyone, welcome back to Natalie's Makeup channel. I had a request for doing a birthday look, so I wanted to bring together something glittery and fun for this makeup tutorial. If you want to see how I got this look, go ahead and keep on watching. Let's get started. Going in first with my favorite NYX Refresh Mist. Go ahead and spray that all over the skin. Personally, I like to go on top with something that's a little bit tackier, especially because my skin had a little bit of texture and dryness. I went in with the NYX Honey Dew Me Up Primer just to give a little bit of luminosity all over the skin. As you can see, that one is very, very tacky, so on application, make sure to use your hands and wait until it's completely dry. Once the primer is dry, I'm going in with a mix of two foundations. Today I'm using the NYX Can't Stop Won't Stop mixed with Pacifica Beauty. That one gives more of a luminous glow. This specific foundation combo I had used in a video prior. I personally love the kind of coverage it gives and the feel on the skin, even though it can be a bit heavy. Personally, when you mix the two together, it does wear well throughout the day. For application technique, to buff into the skin all over in the larger areas of the face, I'm just using a NYX foundation brush. Once I get to the smaller areas, I'm using a Pixie large eyeshadow brush. Personally, I do like to use two different brushes just to make sure that in those smaller areas of the face, I'm going in and giving that extra coverage. Once we have our foundation set, using the same brush with the ColourPop concealer, blend that under the eyes. My personal favorite to blend this with would be a foundation brush, just because to diffuse that color out, I do want to use something a lot fluffier. And you see, I did switch up the routine a little bit here as well. As opposed to setting the skin immediately, I did use a cream contour this time just because I wanted to give more of that Insta-glam look, especially if it's your birthday. You do want to go all out, have fun with it. So before any powder products, I made sure to sculpt and contour the face with the NYX cream. Once I had sculpted the face, now it was time to set completely. I personally am more of a combination, sometimes dry, sometimes oily. If you are going out for your birthday, you want to make sure that it's something super mattifying and that's going to stay on all day and night long. So for this, I would prefer to use a specific Cover FX translucent powder. When applying the translucent powder, I personally use something that's really dense. That way it packs that powder right into the skin to help with longevity. Once we have on all the translucent powder, you're going to leave it there. Don't brush it off just yet. Using a darker contour powder, go on top of the cream that we had placed. And as you can see, I use a couple different brushes here. I switch from something that's really finely, densely packed over to something a little bit looser, just to make sure that we get that sculpted look and it's not just a really harsh defined line. Going in with a NYX No Filter powder, just to slightly contour the face. Take this light NYX powder around the cheeks and under the chin. And then using that same densely packed brush again, just to contour right under the chin. Moving on to my favorite neutral palette with my favorite neutral brown eyeshadow, if you're familiar with my channel. Using this to sculpt the nose and the inner corner of the eyes. Going on top of that contour with a mineral powder just to diffuse that contour and sculpt a little bit further. And here you can see this brush does not have any product whatsoever. It's just to really swipe off any extra powder. This I'm going to use over any translucent and just to diffuse that into the contour we had. Once you dust the powder off, I personally for blush sometimes like to grab something that isn't so finely packed with the brush, so it'll give more of a washed look. Once you apply blush to the apples of the cheeks, go over the tops of the cheeks with the highlighter. And for this step, I like to use a really large eyeshadow brush just to dust on the fine points of the face. Now that face is mostly done, let's get our eyebrows together. So of course, you know me, I'm going to use my favorite NYX Professional Precision Brow Pencil. If you're cruelty-free and you don't like to spend too much money on products, I definitely recommend the eyebrow pencils from NYX. These are really great, really affordable. I personally like them because they do your brows very, very fast. You don't have to be an expert whatsoever, but it's just gonna fill in those areas you need to and very quickly. And a trick that I mentioned to everyone when doing brows, just make sure what way you're holding the pencil. That way you can get the fine strokes and also fill in. And once you fill in the brows with the pencil, go ahead and go right under the arch with a little bit of concealer or foundation color. And for this, extremely important to use a very, very flat concealer brush just to make sure that we're not applying too much product. Once you've defined your arch to your liking, go ahead and use a super light concealer shade all over the eye. Today I'm using Makeup Revolution. This is one of my favorite concealers just because of the coverage itself. It's gonna really act as a good base for any eyeshadows you're placing on top. And because for this specific look, I didn't use any really vibrant eyeshadows, it was just to give more color payoff. I didn't use a concealer that was too light. I just wanted to make sure that it showed the pigmentation. Dipping back into the Desi Katy Dose of Colors palette, using that dark matte red on the outer corners of the eye. I'm applying this with the large eyeshadow fluffy brush, focusing on the outer corner, packing it right into the outer corner crease and blending it into the eye. As you can see here, I'm making sure to look at the mirrors just to make sure that it's not going too high above the crease because we want to give it a specific shape.
So I'm crazy. Oh my baby, got me staring at you.
Once you've packed on enough of that red to your liking, go back with a different darker red. Here I'm using something from the Juvia's Palace palette. With this, I'm taking a different densely packed eyeshadow brush, dragging this onto the eyelid. After applying the first two red eyeshadows, I grabbed a different pencil brush just to make sure that this was applying the color exactly where I wanted it. I wanted to focus the really dark deep red right into the outer corner and drag it a little bit under the lash line as well. Going back in with the first red we used from the Dose of Colors eyeshadow palette with that same pencil brush, I'm dragging this into the crease towards the front of the eye. For this step, I definitely recommend that you use something very small to blend out, just because for this specific part, we want to make sure that the crease that we're cutting is going to be very defined. Once I defined that inner crease, I went back with a NYX red eyeshadow just to blend out the outer corners. This had more of a blue-pink undertone, so I wanted to use it towards the outer corners of the eye just to really diffuse it and blow them both out evenly. Now that I feel like we've packed enough of that red on for now, I went and grabbed that Makeup Revolution concealer again. For this specific part, you can absolutely use a concealer brush. Because this applicator is really nice, it's a doe foot applicator, I felt like it would work perfectly to cut the crease, so I went and did just that. Once I had the initial shape on, I went in with a couple different brushes just to really make sure it was nice and clean, to cut it up a little bit more, and then add product where I thought it needed some. And just to give it a really defined shape, I'm using a really tiny art brush here to go along the crease and to cut it a little bit more with some concealer. right on the middle of the lid, I would definitely recommend blending that out with your finger and then going back over with shadows after, just to make sure that it's nice and diffused into the outer corner. And you'll see I focus the concealer towards the front of the eye just to make sure that's where the brightest part is, because that's where we want to add some extra glitter later. Once I felt like the shape was perfect enough, I went back in with the red to blend on the middle of the eye. Once I blended that matte shade, I'm using the bright sparkly red from the Dose of Colors palette, packing that all over the middle of the eyelid. Super important for this step to make sure that you're not dragging it all the way out to the outer corner. You'll see here I'm packing that matte red back on top just to make sure that we're going from matte to shimmery. Once we had the red glitter down, going in with the Desi Katy palette again, using that light champagne shimmer on the inner corner of the eye. If you've never tried Dose of Colors, this is one of my favorite palettes. The shimmers in here are absolutely beautiful, especially when you're under any specific kind of light. So if you're going out for your birthday, this is definitely something wearable and fun. It will definitely catch somebody's eye. Once I had placed the shimmers into the crease, I wanted to make sure that it still stayed extremely defined. So using that small art brush, I'm going in with that dark red right on top. And if you do want to make it defined like I did here, just make sure you're using an extremely small brush, otherwise it will lose the shape. For glitter today, I'm using the NYX glitter base with the Lit Cosmetics Metal. Here I put the specific NYX glitter primer first. Once that had set for about 30 seconds, then you see I go in with the loose pigment right into the inner corners. For glitter application, it's super important that you know what type of brush to use. For this, as you can see, I'm using a very interesting brush. I specifically picked the eyebrow brush just because I wanted to make sure that I was applying it into the cut crease and it wasn't adding any glitter on top. So using a brush that's very fine or that has that sharp point is going to ensure that you're keeping that crisp cut crease line. And just to add a little bit more drama, using my finger to blot that into the inner corner. Tapping one more time with a Dose of Colors Champagne Shimmer right on top, followed by a little bit of that red shimmer. To deepen it up a tiny bit, using Dose of Colors Eyeshadow palette in the shade Onyx with a small smudger brush, I'm using this on the outer corner just to define and give a little bit more shape. For this specific eye look, I didn't want to go for a foxy eye necessarily. I just wanted to make sure that my eyes were defined, just because for me specifically, my eye shape is a lot more round. So given any drama, I want to make sure that I'm putting a little bit of the black or super dark brown, super dark reds right in the outer corner. Because we did place a lot of black, I went back in with that eyeshadow brush we used for red just to blend everything out. Since our eyeshadow is done, moving on to mascara. Today I'm using Essence Lash Princess on my top lashes. After you put mascara on your top lashes, go in with your favorite falsies. Today I'm using Beauty Creations in the style Cray Cray. While I waited for my top falsies to dry, I went back in with that Lash Princess mascara on the bottom. If you've never tried Essence, I definitely recommend their mascaras. They're one of my favorite personally for separation. They don't add too much product and it doesn't get too chunky. You can definitely go over several times with layers. And y'all already know I'm a perfectionist, so going back in with a little bit more of that red just to define under the eye. Using that sparkle metallic red right in the inner corner under the eye, just to blend that lit glitter we have with the whole eye look. With a pencil brush and the NYX red eyeshadow, I'm going in under the eye to blend and smudge everything out. Moving on to lips, today I didn't use a lip liner. I went in initially with Rubina from Stila. This is a matte liquid. This one is a lot darker, especially if you're someone with a deep complexion. I recommend this one. It's not going to be too orange based. It's very, very deep and looks beautiful. Such a classic red color. I did want to add a little bit of dimension and give it a little something something. So right on top of that, I'm using a different Stila liquid lip. This one is an orange base, so I'm just popping that right in the middle to give more of an ombre effect. Using that NYX Swear by It palette one more time to pop some black eyeshadow right in the lash line. Once I finished off eyes, I did want to add a little bit more warmth, so using the Bare Minerals bronzer one more time and a loose fluffy brush, go back all over the skin, the cheeks, forehead, sides of the nose, just to add a little bit more depth. And with my trusty IT Cosmetics Bye Bye Pores powder, tap that into the T-zone of the face just to make sure that we get rid of any shine and make your skin look like baby's butt. And this is the finished look. Thank you so much to the subscriber who recommended this birthday makeup tutorial. I hope you enjoyed today's look. If you would like to see more videos like this, don't forget to hit the subscribe button and the bell icon to see more videos from me. If there's any specific suggestions you'd like to see coming from me throughout spooky season or any fall glam looks, don't forget to drop a comment down below. Thank you for watching.